You know, for a lot of us, trying new food is one of the best parts of exploring the world. But what if I told you some of the most sought-after dishes on the planet walk a razor-thin line between a delicious meal and a deadly mistake? It's a wild world out there where a single bite can literally be a roll of the dice. So that really makes you wonder, right? What is it that turns a celebrated prize dish into something that could actually be poisonous? Is it the food itself, the way it's cooked, or not cooked, or is it something else entirely? Well, we're about to get into it. Here is how we're going to break down this culinary gamble. First, we'll look at nature's potent poisons, foods that are just born dangerous. Then, we'll get into unwanted ingredients, where the risk comes from contamination. And finally, we'll meet a food that literally fights back. After all that, we'll wrap up with the final takeaway. Let's dig in. Okay, so our first stop is all about ingredients that come with their own, shall we say, built-in security systems. These are foods that are naturally toxic, and it takes an incredible amount of human skill and tradition to make them safe enough to eat. And there's no better place to start than with the one, the only, fugu, also known as the pufferfish. In Japan, this is the height of culinary art, a true delicacy. But it's also hiding a lethal secret in its organs, making it one of the highest stakes meals you could ever possibly order. So, get this. The toxin in fugu is called tetrodotoxin. To put its power in perspective, it makes something like cyanide look like child's play. We're talking way, way more potent. And the scariest part? There's no known antidote. This is exactly why preparing it isn't just cooking, it's a legally regulated art form. And this just shows you how serious it is. Chefs in Japan have to go through years of intense, specialized training. Then they have to pass this incredibly difficult exam, both written and practical, just to earn the license that lets them serve fugu. It's an amazing example of human skill triumphing over a natural threat. All right, let's hop over to the Caribbean for a completely different kind of natural danger. This is ackee, the national fruit of Jamaica. It's a huge part of Jamaican cuisine, especially in the famous dish ackee and saltfish. But with this fruit, timing is absolutely everything. So here's the deal. If you eat ackee before it's ripe, you're in big trouble. It contains a toxin called hypoglycin that can be fatal. The only way to know it's safe is to wait. You have to let the fruit ripen on the tree until it opens up all on its own. That's nature's little green light telling you the poison is gone. Just whatever you do, don't eat the black seeds. And you know, this idea of careful preparation turning something dangerous into a dietary staple is pretty common. Take cassava or yuca. It's a root vegetable that's a crucial source of calories for 500 million people. But if it's not prepared correctly, soaked and cooked through, it can actually release cyanide. Same goes for the giant bullfrog in Namibia. It's a local delicacy, but you have to know which parts to eat and when to eat them, or you could risk kidney failure. It's all about traditional knowledge. All right, let's switch gears. For this next group, the food itself isn't the problem. The danger comes from the outside, from what the food has been exposed to, or from the wild processes used to make it edible in the first place. First up, we have blood clams. They get that name because they're packed with hemoglobin, which makes their insides bright red. Now, here's the thing. They live in low oxygen water, which means they have to filter massive amounts of it just to survive. And in doing so, they become little sponges for some really nasty stuff. Because they filter so much water, they can end up concentrating some really serious viruses and bacteria if they come from polluted areas. Eating them raw or even just undercooked can be a direct ticket to diseases like hepatitis A, typhoid, and dysentery. Yikes. Now for a couple of delicacies that are all about controlled rot. Sounds appealing, right? First, there's Hákarl from Iceland. It's made from a Greenland shark, which, when it's fresh, is completely toxic to humans. Its flesh has so much urea in it that it's basically poisonous. Then you have casu, a cheese from Sardinia that takes unwanted ingredients to a place you won't believe. It's filled with live insect larvae on purpose. So, how do you make a poisonous shark edible? With Hákarl, the answer is a whole lot of time. As you can see, they bury the shark for a few months to ferment and press out all those toxic fluids. Then they dig it up and hang it to dry for several more months. It's an ancient process that turns poison into a national dish. As for casu, those maggots are there to break down the cheese. But there's a real risk. If the larvae make it through your stomach alive, they can cause some serious internal problems. And finally, in this category, we have a risk that's not from a toxin, but from a disease. Now, this is incredibly rare these days, but monkey brains have been considered a delicacy in some places. The huge, and I mean huge, danger here is the risk of contracting creutzfeldt-jakob disease. It's an untreatable and fatal brain disorder, kind of like mad cow disease in humans. Okay, so for our last category of risk, we're not talking about poisons or germs. Nope, we're talking about a food that is a purely physical threat, a dish that can quite literally fight you on its way down. Meet Sannakji. It's a Korean delicacy made from raw, chopped up octopus. And the thing that makes it so famous is that it's served so fresh, the tentacles are still wriggling and squirming on the plate. Now, to be clear, the octopus isn't alive, but its nerve endings are still firing like crazy. And that's exactly where the danger comes from. The suction cups on those tentacles are still active. They can and do grab onto the inside of your mouth and throat as you're trying to swallow. And this is not just some theoretical risk. It's estimated that about 6 people die every single year from choking on Sannakji. This is one meal that demands your full attention. So after going through all of these pretty intense dishes, what's the real story here? I think it's that these foods aren't just about being a daredevil. They represent a deep, deep cultural understanding of nature, knowledge that was probably gained the hard way over centuries. And you can see the pattern so clearly right here. For fugu, the key is the chef's expert hand. For Hákarl, it's the patience of fermentation. For aki, it's knowing exactly when it's ripe. And for Sannakji, it's just chewing really, really well. For every single one, there's a human solution to a natural problem. It's a fantastic story of ingenuity. At the end of the day, exploring the world through its food is one of the coolest things we can do. But as we've seen, that sense of adventure is almost always balanced with wisdom and respect. Knowing the story behind what's on your plate isn't just a fun fact. Sometimes it's what keeps you safe. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. When you sit down to a meal like this, are you really just embracing risk for the thrill of it? Or are you actually placing your trust in generations of tradition and expertise that figured out how to turn the dangerous into the delicious? It's something to think about, right?